is Thursday, January the 14th. It's the second Thursday of the month. It's also my second episode of filming this year. If you haven't gotten to know me yet, I'm Danae Aballi. I'm a real estate agent here in Orange County, California. And I started the show, it's called Moving from California and Where to Go Next. I started the show essentially because I have some Californian clients that are always looking for new adventures. And I wanted to bring them ideas on if they decide to move from California, where they could go, and or if they don't decide to move from California, where would be a good second home or investment property. So I'm very excited for today's show because we are talking about Maui, Hawaii, and Peggy Lynn is with us today. She's going to introduce herself momentarily, but one thing about Peggy Lynn, which is so cool, so we used to be in a pretty elite mastermind group together many years ago, and she's just super well respected in the industry as a real estate agent and team leader. So from that perspective, I'm excited to talk to her, but also she has the experience, the life experience of having moved from mainland to Maui. So she's going to share some of that with us today. So all in all, we have an awesome episode for you guys. So Peggy Lynn, welcome to the show. So yes, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us, how long have you been an agent? How long have you lived in Maui? Give us a little background.
Sure. I'm Peggy Lynn Spiker. I'm the team leader for the Spiker Group, and we have locations in Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, and the District of Columbia, and most recently Maui, Hawaii. So I started my career in 1991. So next week I'm having my 30-year anniversary in real estate, which I'm pretty excited about. 27 years full-time in Maryland, where our teams are still thriving and doing well. And then the last 3 years here on Maui, we transferred or just pretty much picked up and left Maryland. We've been running our teams in Maryland remotely, and Zoom was really a big part of our lives for years before we even moved, just because our team was scattered amongst many different counties in the areas that we served. So we've been on Zoom meetings and serving our clients in that way for many years. And now that turned out with COVID to be kind of the new normal for everyone. So we're way ahead of the curve on that, and it's working out beautifully.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because COVID kind of gave all of us a taste of what it was like to, like you said, jump on the Zooms. And I think for those of us who embraced it before the pandemic, we just kind of had that edge. But one thing I know, you've been in Maui for 3 years now. So what brought you to Maui? I mean, it's obviously leaving the mainland. We've got some traffic. We've got, smog. We've got just sort of the hustle and bustle. Was it sort of the lifestyle, or what brought you there?
Well, our long-term plan was to retire on Maui. And that had been our plan for a long time. And then a business opportunity presented itself. We ended up meeting some people from Maui at an international real estate conference, and we got this opportunity to join up and partner with some really amazing luxury agents here. And so we took that opportunity and decided, well, we'll give it a year and see how things go with our business on the East Coast. And if it works out, we'll stay. And we had a couple of contingency plans, but we really just wanted to stay in Maui. And yes, traffic is a total nightmare in the DC area. I used to be in my car maybe 5 hours a day. So I got 5 hours of that. Weather's not great in the DC area. It's absolutely amazing here. So that's another reason. And just, I think overall, the biggest reason though, was that as you get older and you hear about all the things that people say they want to do in their lives, and then so many people unfortunately get to a place where they have regrets. They wish they had taken that trip, or had moved to some place that they loved, or had whatever it is, done whatever it is. And we just didn't want to be those folks with the big regrets. So we jumped in and we did it, and we're really happy that we did.
So cool. I love it. Well, so let's talk a little bit about pricing. So certainly when people look at other real estate markets, the pricing is always a big play. Here in Orange County, across the whole state of California, we've got pretty pricey markets. But here in Orange County, I'll give you just for comparison, our single family home last month closed out at average price $925,000. and our condos closed out at 555,000. So overall, sort of an expensive market, but I do think it's probably, and you can tell us, comparable to Maui. How does your real estate market look from a numbers perspective?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about pricing in Orange County, but I do know that it's one of the more expensive counties in the United States for real estate. Here, yeah. I'd say an average condominium is going to be about $1 million, and an average single family home is about $2 million.
Wow. Yeah, so $925 is our average home price across the entire county. But if you look at our coastal cities like Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, you're going to be around 2.3, 2.4 million. So for those folks, you're probably just sort of almost the same. So that's kind of cool to hear from that perspective.
That's right. And of course, Maui is a population of 150,000. And if you know anything about the map of Maui, there's like a big chunk and a little chunk. And I live on the little chunk, which is called the West Side. So on our little chunk, on our West Side, which includes, these are names you're going to be familiar with, probably Lahaina, Kaanapali, Kapalua, those areas are all on the West Side. So in our little area is only about 30,000 population. Just getting back to what you were saying about pricing, there are many areas in the larger part of Maui, like upcountry, like where it's not coastal at all. It's more up in the mountains and more rural farms and things like that, where the pricing is completely different. But what I'm talking about today is the West Side, which is the Lahaina, Kapalua, Kaanapali areas that you probably see on TV when you're looking at whale watching or the big golf tournament that just happened last weekend, things like that.
Awesome. So give us a little lay of the land as far as what is life there like? Do you think people are moving there maybe for like retirement, or do you think now that we can work from anywhere, people are showing up with their laptops and they're still working, or what are people doing?
Yeah, so definitely historically we've seen a lot of retirees coming to Maui. Generally, people tend to buy property on Maui as an investment property in preparation for retirement. So maybe,
got it.
I don't know if you were catching that. Many retirees do move to Maui, and many people will purchase their retirement property 5 or 10 years in advance of their anticipated retirement and use that property as a vacation rental, so that by the time they retire, they have a lot of equity or maybe have it all paid off. And then they also have a place that they can come to a couple times a year as they're anticipating their retirement. But definitely in the last 9 months, we've seen a major influx of people who, as you said, just are picking up their laptops and moving to a place that's more comfortable for them, just because they can work remotely and that's more acceptable and easier in this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you speak a little bit to the rental market then? It seems like Maui would embrace, or maybe do most of the HOAs embrace that if you want to rent out your property, that you're able to do that?
So there are condominium complexes, many of them, that are vacation rentable. But for the most part, single family homes are absolutely not rentable. So in 2018, our laws changed here on Maui so that vacation rental permits are not being allowed for single family homes for like Airbnb kind of situations. Huh. And the main reason is that there's just not enough housing for people who live here and work here. When you're able to rent your home for $1,000 a night on a vacation rental versus $3,000 a month for a long-term rental, then obviously you're going to go for the vacation rental. So the county has really cracked down and eliminated most of that kind of rental availability, just so that there's more housing for residents.
Isn't that crazy? It's the housing shortage is certainly.
So that's really something important to know. Actually, if you're purchasing a single family home, you would not be eligible to even apply for a permit to vacation rent your home for the first 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So the investors, folks who are needing to do the vacation rentals, they're definitely going to be needing to look at condos only. And we have condos that are more than 4,000 square feet. It's not a problem in terms of space or anything like that. It's just that there are only 80 permits in the county for vacation rentals for single family homes, and they are all taken, and they're not issuing any new ones. So unless someone's eligible after 5 years of ownership, they're not going to be getting those.
Wow, it's interesting. I don't know if I froze, but I'll continue my thought. I was just saying that it's interesting. We're basically in a housing shortage across the nation, everywhere you go. But I imagine on an island, it's got to be even more restricted, just simply from the standpoint of you're completely surrounded by water. Are you seeing single family homes built?
So you were saying there's a housing shortage everywhere, and you're imagining it'd be worse here.
Are you seeing that people are building like the Ohana houses or the guest houses in the back to sort of increase the supply of housing?
Well, that would be wonderful, but most people don't have the advantage of having that much land in order to build the Ohanas. And so we don't have a lot of that. We don't have a lot of new construction building in any way at all. There's definitely, it's a conundrum. We have a shortage of housing for sure, but we have so much of our population is not full-time here. So, trying to balance new construction and development, which no island ever wants. We want to keep our island beautiful the way it is, and we have an extremely limited amount of land. So it's a tough one. It's a real balance, and so that causes people who live here to just have such a great appreciation for the fact that we're here and we have homes and this is our permanent home. It makes it all the more valuable.
Okay, awesome. So just a quick question on the housing then. If somebody wants to come to Maui and maybe that particular scenario where maybe they want to retire down the road, is there any like particular condo communities that you recommend? And I guess on a short broadcast like this, you probably have more than one in mind, but I guess inventory is a concern. There's not a whole lot of properties available. So how do you kind of navigate that with your clients and help them find something that fits?
Well, one of the things that's really interesting here on Maui is that we hold property in two different ways. We have fee simple properties, just like we do in California, and we have leasehold properties, which is where you own the condominium but not the land beneath. So we have this land lease that's an additional fee on top of the HOA fee every month. So generally speaking, people have pretty strong opinions about that. And so people that don't want leasehold, they want to eliminate that search altogether. The vacation rentable condo is a big deal. Either they have the permit or they don't. They're probably not going to change that. Those things aren't going to change. And then view is really a number one priority for most people.
Yeah. Buying
vacation rentable property, but not always. Sometimes it's budget, and any budget can work. So really connecting with a good agent on Maui is really important because just navigating what's leasehold, what are the leasehold fees, what's vacation rentable, what are the views, and what are the pitfalls. For example, there are certain areas on West Maui that they're having massive seawall issues and beach erosion issues. So, you might want to consider your investment dollars in those areas, depending, are they even going to be standing in 10 years?
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you definitely need somebody like you. So for those of you,
it's really critical. So if you're seeing online an oceanfront condo for $189,000 in Lahaina, there's a reason why. It's either got massive monthly fees, or it's leasehold, or both, or it's got seawall or erosion issues on the beach, or maybe all those things.
Yeah.
So it's really important to connect with someone like me and get the real scoop on what's going on there.
Awesome. Well, I always ask on the show about sort of the lifestyle in general. I think all of us have a pretty good idea. If you're going to the Hawaiian Islands, You probably get to snorkel. You've got, whale watching, surfing, all of those things. But is there anything else maybe particular to Maui? For those listening, maybe they haven't been to Maui, maybe just Oahu or Kauai. Is there anything that kind of sets you guys apart from I want to say a personality standpoint in Maui?
I think so. We have a tremendously beautiful restaurant scene. We have really amazing chefs that come out of some of the greatest culinary institutions and restaurants on the mainland and abroad, all over the place. So there's never a lack of any great, amazing food or beverages, for that matter. Yeah. Then the second thing is our hiking. Hiking is not necessarily something that people think about when they think about Maui, but it's absolutely spectacular. You can, be hiking in basically along the beach trails in the morning and go up to Haleakala and be in the 30-degree weather and maybe some snow and looking out over the observatories in the afternoon. It's only an hour difference, but massive elevation difference. And everything in between. We have forests and we have deserts and all kinds of really interesting places to hike. But the number one thing probably people don't think of about Maui is the art scene. So we have the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, where we have concerts and art exhibits and things like that. But we also have many, many, many art galleries. Not only local artists, Hawaiian artists, but the masters. We have Picasso's and Renoirs and all kinds of beautiful art, many galleries. And so that makes life a lot of fun, especially on Friday nights when it's not COVID, and we have like art nights usually on Friday night with great music and drinks and art gallery shopping.
So fun. Well, one thing you mentioned was the weather. You said that, you can kind of do that beach trail and then go up in the hills. So tell us about the weather. Is there sort of, I know on Kauai, they're sort of known as like the sunny side of the island and the jungle side of the island. So is there any weather patterns that we should know of in Maui?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So I mentioned about Haleakala. That's upcountry and obviously up in a very high elevation. It's really, really cold up there. People actually have heat in their homes, which we don't on the west side. And they have fireplaces and things like that. And then just in the stretch along West Maui, which is only about a 20-mile stretch, we have these microclimates. So Lahaina town, which is our little downtown area, it's very hot, very dry, almost never rains there. It's almost guaranteed sunshine and great beach days every day. You just go a few miles to the north toward Kaanapali, and you're going to be in an area that you have like a little sprinkling morning rain almost every day. And then you go on up to Kapalua, and it's probably about 10 degrees colder at any given day. And it's much more breezy and cool. The surf is much bigger there, and it rains a lot. And that's one of the reasons why the golf courses are so beautiful and lush there. So it just depends on what you like and what you're looking for. But that's another thing to connect with an agent about when you're looking. You might think, well, this one is just 5 miles from that one, so they'd be the same, but they're very different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. I don't know that there's anywhere else at least in the United States, that you would get that wild of differences over such a short span. That's really cool to see. Yes. So tell us too, we talked a little bit about pricing as far as the condos and the housing, but how about other fees like property taxes, HOA fees, anything else we should know there?
Well, HOA fees can be hefty. Hefty in my version of hefty. So I've seen HOA fees on an oceanfront condo. It's uncommon. It's not uncommon to see HOA fees in the $1,500 to $2,000 a month range. A lot of that goes towards the maintenance of properties and buildings that are on the oceanfront. Obviously, okay, to take care of those. At big properties that are very luxurious and newer, like the Montage residences there, your HOA fees can go up to $8,500 a month, $9,000 a month. And then there's little neighborhoods like the one I live in, which is residential, and it's not directly on the ocean. We're about half a mile up on the hillside, where our HOA fee is only $160 a month. So they
have a good variety.
Huge range. Yeah. Property taxes If you're a resident here, it's some of the very lowest taxes in the United States. I think maybe the lowest property taxes in the United States if you're a full-time owner here and you're a full-time resident. And then taxes are calculated differently based on whether you're on agricultural land or conservation land, or if you have a vacation rentable condo, and so on. So the difference is, for example, like maybe $2.50 per thousand on a owner-occupied a full-time residence home, all the way up to about $11 per thousand on a short-term rentable condominium.
Oh, got it.
Big difference.
Well, it is a huge difference, but it also seems fair to me. So if you're renting it out on a short term, you pay a little higher tax, but you're getting a little higher income coming in. So it all balances out.
It seems to work out some way, even out.
Yeah. Peggy, just one more thing too. So if you were talking to maybe a Californian coming there, buying real estate, I think we covered a lot of it, but is there anything else that maybe a Californian doesn't know that they should know when they're looking at buying property in Hawaii and Maui?
Yeah. Well, schools are definitely a concern for anybody that's coming with children. Less so now, however, now that like learning at home is doable and normal.
Yeah.
But we do have, we have plenty of public schools. One of our Lahaina Luna High School is a very famous high school here. We have a lot of football players that come out of Lahaina and go pro eventually. So that's a lot of fun. And their campus is up on the hillside with a beautiful view. But we also have an excellent school that's about 10 years old. It's called Maui Prep. And it's very close to my home in Napili on the west side. And it's just a beautiful school, beautiful campus, and attracts a lot of folks who are looking for private schools on the west side. You're always going to be within about 10 miles. No matter where you live on the west side, you're going to be within about 10 miles of that beautiful school.
Awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that because I did not ask you about schools, and that certainly is a big draw. And I think, like we've said, with the new COVID days and so many companies allowing people to work from home, I think now more than ever, people are open to the idea of bringing their family over. I told you just before we started the show, my sister recently moved over to the islands. She's on the Big Island, but she just could not be happier. Sounds like you are as well. And one thing that she really talks about is the Aloha spirit and just sort of being connected to the island and nature, and she just has this.
It's true. It's such a big deal here. Aloha. Yeah. I guess on the mainland, people think it just means hello and goodbye, but it really means so much here. It's the spirit and the way that you connect with each other and the way that you connect with the land and the ocean and nature here. It's such a really big part of our lives. In fact, it's a law in Hawaii to treat others with aloha. So it really is a beautiful thing and a special thing. And I think there's a few places on the mainland right now that could use some aloha.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if people want to come see you, I know from personal experience getting over to Hawaii, you do have to pass a COVID test before you get on the plane. But other than that, I assume getting to Maui is pretty easy. You guys have one airport that you have, or?
We do. We have our main airport in Kahului, which is about an hour from the west side. We also have a small regional airport right here in Kapalua. So if you're flying into Oahu, for example, you can connect and come right on over to Kapalua Airport. But from the mainland, most people fly directly right into Kahului.
Okay.
And yes, you do need your COVID test. Do your research online and make sure that you get an acceptable COVID test with the right timing.
Yeah,
save you a lot of headaches.
Well, before I let you go, you can certainly add anything else that I've forgotten. I get so in love with the Hawaiian Islands, I go sideways on my interview questions. But I did want to ask you about a deal of the day. This is your opportunity to sell a house right now on the show. So tell us about a property that you know of that might be something us Californians are interested in.
There's a property that's been on and off the market for a while, and it was just recently put back on the market. It's an oceanfront house. It is absolutely beautiful. It was just remodeled. It has a huge pool and a huge lawn leading right out to the gorgeous Pacific Ocean with the turtles that come up every day. It's an idyllic Maui home with the tall wooden ceilings and just beautiful appointments all the way around. A white kitchen. I mean, nothing not to love there. It's 4039 Lower Honoapi'ilani Road, and it's priced at $11,500,000. And that's my pick of the day for sure.
You know what? 11 million is certainly a big, price tag, but for oceanfront with a pool and all those amenities you just mentioned, that's actually sounds like a really good buy to me. 11 million is certainly a big price tag, but for oceanfront, that actually seems like a pretty good buy.
I think so too. It's definitely a home that you will, it's also gated, so you have plenty of privacy there, and it's an absolute oasis. I mean, if you are going to want to purchase a property on Maui, walk through the door and feel like, oh my gosh, I have arrived. This is my forever spot. And feeling the aloha 100%, that's the place.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. If you guys want to get in touch with Peggy Lynn, which I so highly encourage you to do, I displayed her number on the screen if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. But I'll just give you her web address if you're listening on the podcast. It's peggylyn.com. That's Lynn, Lyn, and I'll, of course, include the link in the show notes. I'll even put the property that she mentioned in the show notes as well, so you can click on that and connect with Peggy. Part of the reason I do the show is to give you guys good info. Not part of the reason. The whole reason I do it is to give you good info and connect you with good people. But should you find yourself wanting to sell an Orange County property, then you can have my contact information as well. You can connect with me on Instagram. I'm at Danae Aballi. But I appreciate you guys tuning in to today's show and getting to know Peggy. And we're gonna connect again, Peggy. I'm gonna come see you.
Please do. Anybody who wants to come my way, I'll be happy to meet you for a drink, tell you more about Maui, and enjoy the beautiful sunshine.
I love it. All right, take care. See you guys.
Aloha.